been happening at the SCO summit. India has shamed Pakistan on its own soil. Speaking during the SCO summit, the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar made a scathing attack on Pakistan's state-sponsored terror. He listed extremism, terrorism and separatism as three evils plaguing our world. He also went on to say that if trust is lacking among neighbors, then there is reason to introspect. He also said that cooperation must be based on respect for territorial integrity as well as sovereignty. Let me go across to Rishabh now for more on this. Rishabh, this is not the first time that Dr. S. Jaishankar has made remarks of this nature during the SCO summit. He said this in Goa as well in May last year. But this time round, the fact that he's saying this in Islamabad on Pakistani soil makes it all the more significant.
Well, definitely. There is a difference what External Affairs Minister said in Goa and what he said in Islamabad. In Goa, it was a press conference where the questions were asked and targeted to Pakistan, and External Affairs Minister responded to it, though in a very aggressive manner, where he called Pakistan sponsorer, backer, supporter, as well as executor of terrorism in the country. He also went on to say back then that Pakistan's GDP is falling less than its credibility. These were the statements that were made back in May 2023. This time around, in SCO summit, where he was delivering the national statement for India, he went on to say that if something is characterized by cross-border terrorism, there cannot be trade or energy flow. Very clearly sending out a message that terror and talks will not go hand in hand. The SCO Charter talks about the member countries involving and engaging in trade, energy flow and other security measures. But India is very clear, till Pakistan stop sponsoring terrorism that affects India, right, India will not come
Rishabh,
on the table.
Stay with us because we're getting a lot of reactions to this as well. We have Mr. Anil Trigunayat also joining us, diplomat. Mr. Trigunayat, how do you see the response that's come in from Dr. S. Jaishankar in Islamabad? India has not pulled back its punches here and has made a very categorical statement about respect for sovereignty and integrity of nations, and also terrorism to not be used as some kind of a proxy that Pakistan has been using. Of course, Pakistan's name was not taken directly, but nevertheless a strong message being sent.
Well, in the first place, I think that the visit of Dr. S. Jaishankar for the SCO was extremely relevant and necessary, and I'm glad that he is there. At the same time, India's position has been very clear, which has been articulated by Dr. Jaishankar very vehemently. The biggest problem in the SCO, and which was its biggest objective as well, the most fundamental objective was to counter terrorism. And we see that there are states within SCO, including Pakistan and sometimes supported by China, that the fight against terrorism has not continued. The only thing that has continued is the cross-border terrorism as an instrument of Pakistan's foreign policy. So even though you don't take it by name, because the bilateral issues are not discussed in SCO and other multilateral organizations, it is important to call them out. And that's the reason that Dr. Jaishankar spoke about the three evils, basically, that terrorism, separatism, and extremism. They are very, very important. Now, other things follow only after that, be it trade, be it investment, or be other collaboration mechanisms or connectivity projects. Now, if your sovereignty is impacted in one way or the other, you could not subscribe to that idea. That is a very fundamental fact of international diplomacy. And that's what precisely Dr. Jaishankar has continued to talk very, very forcefully everywhere. What does the UN Charter say? Do respect that UN Charter. If you're going to be not SCO Charter, if you are there, then you must follow it. Of course, he also brought to attention the impact of the wars that are going on, the kind of global challenges that are facing the world. That's very, very important. But for us, India is a major power in the region. Terrorism is an extremely big challenge for India, which we are trying to fight at every level. And therefore, SCO must live up to its expectations, right, and its own charter. That's what he meant.
What's also happening parallelly, Mr. Trigunayat, is the joint statement that was released by both Pakistan as well as China. which included Jammu and Kashmir. They did specifically mention J&K there. And they, of course, also spoke about commitment to the CPEC, which is a China-Pakistan economic corridor, which actually violates our own sovereignty because it cuts through POK as well. In the context of what's been happening simultaneously on the sidelines of the SCO summit, how important are these remarks made by Dr. S. Jaishankar? How is India reading both the Sino-Pak angle and the actions that are taking place parallelly alongside the summit as well?
Well, we are fully aware, and I'm not a diplomat anymore, so I can say that,
yes,
that Pakistan acts like a state of China. So obviously, the China continues to support them. They need this CPEC for their own strategic objective, and the CPEC goes through Indian Kashmir, and therefore, which is occupied by Pakistan, and some of it was conceded or ceded to China. So China and Pakistan, to that extent, are complicit. But at the same time, we have to work with them. They have been our neighbors. They are our neighbors. They will be our neighbors. So we have to continue to deal with them. And they are doing it bilaterally in whatever context they do it. But does it all good? It is a challenge for us. And that challenge we'll have to continue to fight at all levels. We have said it. Dr. Jaishankar has very clearly, without naming them, have said it. But as you know, that if the J&K and the CPAC and all these issues are flagged by them, which is their standard narrative and rhetoric, I'm sure we are going to call that out.
All right. Many thanks, Mr. Trigunayat, for your perspective on this. Let me once again go back to Rishabh. Rishabh, lots of mind games at play. While Dr. S. Jaishankar is in Islamabad, of course, India making a very categorical statement there about terrorism and countries that sponsor it. Pakistan and China have been playing their own strategic games parallelly and simultaneously with the release of that very elaborate joint statement, which also mentioned Jammu and Kashmir. Well, we'll come back to Rishabh in just a short while from now, but Dr. S. Jaishankar reiterating a lot of the claims that he's made in the past as well at the SCO summit, including in Goa in May last year. But this time round, this assumes that much more significance because he's saying it in Pakistan, on Pakistani soil, also in the presence of the Pakistan Prime Minister as well. So very pertinent and an important statement and intervention made by India during the course of the SCO summit, even as Pakistan and China have been trying to play their own mind game simultaneously. Let me go back once again to Rishabh and ask him that question once again. Rishabh, a very elaborate joint statement came from Pakistan as well as China, which specifically mentioned Jammu and Kashmir in paragraph 25 of that statement. And of course, them reiterating their commitment towards the CPEC or the China-Pakistan economic corridor. India, however, seems unfazed by all of this.
The joint statement that has been released by Pakistan and China. It's like you scratch my back, I scratch your back, and that is what the whole statement is. Though it's a very longish statement, but if you see, in a way, Pakistan is saying that we agree to the one China policy, Taiwan is China's, Hong Kong belongs to China, Manchuria belongs to China, and so on and so forth. In return, China says that, what we think that Jammu and Kashmir has credible, the stake for Pakistan as well. And they talk about developments in Jammu and Kashmir, about Article 370 and whatnot. This is quite usual that, China and Pakistan, whenever they meet at high level, they issue a joint statement and they rake up Kashmir. India till now has been very clear that, and just by saying things or releasing statement, things on ground won't change. The only thing that needs to be discussed between India and Pakistan is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir that has been legally occupied by Pakistan, and Pakistan needs to tell India when they are actually vacating it. And the way this joint statement talks about the United Nations resolution, the first thing on Kashmir resolution from UNSC was Pakistan will vacate the occupied territories, Indian forces will take over, and then further course of action will take place. So till Pakistan suffice the first condition of UNSC resolution of 1949, there is no way anything else can be discussed.
Sure. Many thanks for that, Rishabh. So strong statement coming from our Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, at the SCO summit. Let's turn our attention to another developing story now. As many as 10 flights